Hi guys, you're welcome to this crash course in front-end web development. This course is for people that are looking at starting their career in front-end web development. It's going to put you through all you need to know in writing your first HTML and CSS code. At the end of this particular course, you have a strong direction in terms of your career roadmap in front-end web development. So without wasting much of our time, let's get started. Don't forget to like this particular video, subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you won't miss on subsequent videos, and feel free to drop a question or a comment in the comment section. Before we go straight and start writing our first piece of code, we want to first learn who is a front-end developer, right? So in every firm, in every tech firm, we have like several professionals that work together to ensure that a certain application, be it web application or mobile app application, is being developed. Now, one of the first person that will work on a certain project when there is an idea is the product designer. So a product designer is the person that comes with the prototype of the project, right? Consider them as an architect in the industry. So let's say you want to construct a building. The product designers are the people that will actually draw how that particular building is going to look like, just like architects in the building construction industry. So in our own industry as well, they help us come up with the prototype, right? Then once they are done with the job, the front-end developers are the ones that convert that particular job into an actual design. So as a front-end developer, you might find yourself working with product designers, right? So they give you these particular designs, you now convert them to a piece of code that works on the front end. So your job is to write on piece of things that will ensure that that particular design now can be visible on the front end side of the application. We also have back-end developers too. So back-end developers are the ones that actually build APIs. So APIs are means in which two applications actually communicate. It stands for Application Programming Interface. So the back-end developer picks all the information from the front end and actually take those information or data and store them in a database. And we have several other languages for that, right? But the aim of this particular crash course is for you to learn the front end side. Now, you must have heard of people being a full stack developer. If you're a full stack developer, it simply means that you know both front end and back end, right? So these are the people we call full stack developer. Other professionals you might also find in a tech firm as well that also will work with the team will also be the DevOps engineer. So the DevOps engineer are the guy that works with the deployment and they handle all the infrastructure, and they are the intermediary between the development part of that particular project with actually the part of the project that is in production, and that's why we call them development and operation. Now, all you need to know right now as someone that is getting started in front end is to know that you are the person that will actually inherit that particular project from the product designer and convert that to piece of code, and that is what we'll be learning in this particular crash course. Now that you know who a front-end developer is and what they do, you need to also know what languages you're expected to learn. Now, these are the foundational languages every front-end developer should know. The first one is HTML. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's a simple markup language. Now, the second one that you need to learn is a style sheet, CSS. So CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. So we're also going to be learning it in this particular crash course, right? So CSS enable you to be able to style your component or to style your HTML code, right? Another thing again you need to learn, which will probably be your first programming language, is JavaScript. So JavaScript is a client-side programming language. Nonetheless, we can also use JavaScript for back-end and so on and so forth through Node.js. And as a front-end developer, you also want to learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Not just only stopping at learning vanilla JavaScript, you might also want to learn other frameworks like React, Vue, or AngularJS, and so on and so forth, and also learn how to build like responsive web designs and as well as consuming of RESTful APIs. Now, before we get started and start coding, I want you guys to know that NerdII has an online bootcamp course that is 8 weeks. Now, it's a paid online bootcamp course that comes with a support group where we will answer questions when you're taking that particular course. That also comes with accountability partners where you'll be paired with other learners so that you'll be accountable to them as they are accountable to you as well. You will also have access to mentorship. So there'll be mentors that'll be there to answer your question once every week, and we have a live section. And if you can afford it, read the caption below in this particular video or the description under this particular video to learn more about that particular program and go ahead and enroll for it. It will help you have strong foundation when it comes to front end, and it will help you start your front end career on the right path. Don't hesitate to actually enroll for the 8 weeks online bootcamp. So that being said, we'll go straight into our system and we'll start coding as we start to learn HTML. You're welcome back. In this particular video right now, and I'm going to show us how we can get started as front-end developers. And the first thing we want to do is to ensure that we have the right software installed. And as front-end developer, we'll need two things. We'll need our VS Code and we'll also need a browser. Now, automatically, I believe that most of us will already have a browser on our system. For example, me, I already have like a Chrome browser on my system. You can go ahead and install your own browser. Now, one thing we'll need VS Code. So VS Code is a text editor. This will be where we'll be writing our code. Just go on Google and search for VS Code download. The moment you click on VS Code download on Google, it will get you to this particular area where you're going to see download Visual Studio Code. Now, when you see this particular download Visual Studio Code, all you just have to do is click on this particular link. The moment you click on that particular link, you're going to see Windows, Linux, and Mac. I'm on a Mac machine, so I'll go ahead and download this and install. For you, if you're on a Windows machine, you can also go ahead and download this and install. So once you click on the download like this, it will start basically, you'll see areas on how you can download it, or better still, it will also start downloading like this, and just go ahead and run it. Now, I want to cancel this because I didn't really want to download it for real, because I already have it installed inside of my system, right? So I have my VS Code installed. I've run that particular application, and when you run your application for the first time, this is what you are going to see. So if this is what you're going to see, that means you already have your VS Code installed and everything is working fine. Now, once you have your VS Code installed, the next thing you want to do is to basically start coding, right? So for us to start coding right now, let me close this. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my system and I'm going to create a folder. Now, the first thing I want to learn is HTML. So right here, instead of my system here, I'm going to create a new folder. So I'm going to click like this and create a new folder. And I'm going to name this particular folder HTML, right? Once the folder is named as HTML, so everything is good to go, then I could actually start developing. So I'll go back to my VS Code. Right here, I'll click on File and I'll click on Open Folder. Then if I click on Open Folder, I'll go to my system where I have that particular folder saved. I'll be saved inside here, HTML. This is where I created it, and I'll select that particular folder and I'll click on Open. And the moment I click on Open, I'll have that particular folder right here staring at me as HTML, right? So once I have that staring at me as HTML, all I have to do right now is basically I'm creating a new file, right? I can choose to create a new file as much as I like. So all I need to do right now is to click on this new file area and I will create a new file. So I'll click on new file and I could call this any name, right? So but HTML has a file extension called .html. In the same way that we have file extension for pictures that is called .png or PDF that is called .pdf. So you can name HTML anything, but you always want to end it with .html. So let me start by naming it basic. So I'll name it basic and I'll say basic.html. So the moment I have it like this, I want to start to write my first piece of code. So if I click here, it will just close that particular sidebar for me. So once I have it like this, so the next thing I want to do now is to write my first piece of code, right? But before I start to write our first piece of code, what exactly is HTML? HTML, as we all know it, stands for Hypertext Markup Language. So I always tell people that HTML is a markup language, right, and not a programming language. So the first language I want to learn is our hypertext markup language, and HTML deals with a game of what? Tags. So HTML is all about tags here and tags there. So that is what HTML is all about, right? So now we know that HTML is a game of tags. What else do we really want to know? So the next thing that we are going to do right now is to learn how to create a tag. So now, since we know that HTML is a game of tags, I want to now type something like this. I'll do something like this and say tag, right? So the difference between this first line 1 and line 2 is the fact that this other one is enclosed in an angle bracket, right? So like this, as you're saying, it is a text, but like this now, it's a tag. Number 2 is a tag because of what? This particular angle bracket. Number 2 is a tag because of this angle bracket that we see inside of here, but that makes it a tag. So now that we know that how we can declare a tag, let's learn one more thing. Let's learn how to open a tag and close a tag. So if I have something like this is a tag and it's an open tag, if I have another one like this is a tag, it's a close tag. So this particular line is open tag. This particular first line is open tag, while the second line is what? Close tag, right? So why is this called a close tag? And this is called a close tag because of this particular forward slash. So the forward slash actually made it a close tag. But the difference between this and this is the forward slash. So since we've learned how to open a tag and how to close a tag, I want to further just explain one little thing. So if it's a tag and right here is a content, right? Let's say this one is called content 1 and this other one is called what? Content 2. Now, the difference between content 1 and content 2 is the fact that content 1 is enclosed inside of that tag, making sure that the tag is carrying content 1 and the tag is not carrying content 2. Now, the point here is that anything that is within the tag is what the tag is carrying. If it is outside the tag is not actually carrying that particular thing. So let's delete content 2, right, and just leave it like this now. So once we leave it like this now, we could now start learning our first tag, since we've learned that HTML is a game of tag. Now let's learn our first tag. Now the first tag of HTML that we want to learn is the HTML tag itself. So HTML on its own has a tag called HTML. That's the first thing we are going to learn. And inside HTML is another tag, and that tag is called our head tag, right? So if HTML is a human being, right, a human being would have a head and a body. So the same way, HTML will also have a head and also a body tag. So you could see that now this particular tag, open and close HTML, it carries these two tags, the head tag and the body tag. And the body tag carries another tag too, which we call the title tag. So the title tag is the name of our document. For example, let's just call this the basic structure, right? Let's call it basic structure. So once we call it our basic structure here, inside here, let's type our first thing. Let's just type hello world. So we save it. So once we have our first structure here, our basic structure here, and we have our hello world inside of this particular area, we can actually save it, and we can start running it. Now we have this, let's go and see the little website or the little web page that we have actually built. So now we'll come back into our document. We'll come back into our system where we have this loaded. Then we can now choose to run this on our browser. For us to run this on our browser, we have to right click on it and say open with and choose our browser that we want to run it on. For me, it will be my Google Chrome. So once I click on that now, we can see it right here, right? That we have hello world and we have our basic.html here. And guess what we're seeing here? We're seeing basic structure because that's our title. Now, this is what I'm trying to say now is that anything we put inside here, basic structure, if I change it, let me call it basic structure again. Let me call it hello world. Let me just type hello structure just for sample and save it and go back to our browser and we'll refresh this. If we refresh this now, you realize that this particular title right here at our tab has changed. In other words, any title that will give this particular document will be what will be inside of our tag. So I will go back again and just Ctrl Z to bring it back to what we have previously, which is our basic structure. So now we've learned how to create our basic structure. So I'll just Ctrl A and delete everything. I want to show us how we can use a shortcut in our keyboard to create this particular basic structure without typing it, right? It's called basic structure because every time we want to write a piece of code or build a web page instead of HTML, we are going to write it in that same format, right? So I'm going to use exclamation mark. So once I write exclamation mark and I hit enter like this, automatically HTML just generates me, VS Code just generates me this particular piece of code that I can actually start typing. And my title is here. I'll just say basic structure, right? So I'll not even delete anything. I'll not delete anything like this. I'll not delete anything. I'll just leave it here. And this piece of code, later I will explain what all these other tags does, meta tag. We have another tag here again. It's called the doc type tag. So this doc type tag allows us to define the version of HTML that we are actually working on. So now that we know all of this, let's do it again. So Ctrl Z, delete it. For us to come up with that auto-generated piece of code for VS Code, you just hold your type in exclamation mark like this and hit enter, and everything will just come out, and you can just go ahead and type basic structure like this. So with this now, we've learned sort of piece of code inside of HTML. Now, in our next video, I'll be introducing us to some other tags that we need to learn inside of HTML and how we can actually get started with those other tags as well. So see you guys in the next video.